Hey guys, Pastor Chris Bell here. I want to welcome you to the Three Circle Podcast. This is Beyond the Weekend, where every single week we go a little further, a little deeper into what we taught that weekend here in the weekend teaching, which is always based directly on the Word of God. And right now we are in a series called The Fruit of the Spirit. We don't want to confuse that with the plural fruits of the Spirit. That's important because when we become Christians, we receive all of the fruit of the Spirit at one time. And then God, throughout our lives, continues to pull that out of us. And when we grow in one area, we grow in all those areas because it is the singular fruit of the Spirit with many components. And so we're having a great time so far this summer. And on the podcast this week, we have a very special guest. She is the director of children's ministries here at our Fairhope campus. She's been here for a decade now and was doing ministry before that in Pensacola, Florida. She grew up in a pastor's home. She's one of those leaders that wherever you kind of drop her in, parachute her in, everything gets better immediately. She has led marriage ministries. She has led small group ministries. She has led our teams that handle our greeting and our first impression. She's done all those things and has always kind of had her hand in the environments when it comes to our next generation in children's ministries. And now she's running that side of what we do at Three Circles. So she's a dear friend, and we're really glad to have you, Miss Brittany Hogan, on the podcast this week.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome. We're glad to have you too. Now you're coming off of a 2-week run here recently because, first of all, you had Camp Three Circle, which is how would you describe that?
It's basically our vacation Bible school, but much more exciting and energetic, and there's a lot of kids here. So we had about, I think at this campus, around 600 kids maybe. It's basically like we would say VBS on steroids. It's incredible. It was a lot of fun. But I'm glad to have that behind us this summer, and I lead a high school small group, so I went to our student camp this last week.
And those were back-to-back. So you finished Camp Three Circle, literally got in your car and went to Panama City for the camp with the teenagers.
Yes,
Am I right?
took a nap first. But yes, it was a lot. It was good, though. It's good. But it's, I'm kind of like recalibrating, figuring out
I bet.
What day it is of the week.
Yeah, because not only that, of course, you're a wife and a mother, and you got this awesome kid, Ethan, who we all love. How old is he now?
He is 7.5.
Wow.
It's
a fun time.
He's a cutie. I woke up this morning and he was wearing a Sonic costume in his bed. And it was absolutely precious.
Yeah, it's the best. That's a really fun age. I miss my kids being that age. But so, Brittany, we're really glad to have you on the podcast. You obviously, we're doing the fruit of the Spirit right now.
Yes.
And this particular week, we're looking at the component of the fruit of the Spirit known as joy. Mm-hmm. And so we've done love, agape love, and we saw what that really means and what that really is. And now we're looking at joy. And so when we think about it in the world, I think often our world chases after a thing called happiness.
Right.
We even have, there was this great movie, I think Will Smith was in it, Pursuit of Happiness.
Apparently it was very sad, though.
Did you not see it?
I didn't see it.
It was really good.
Okay.
It was really good. He didn't slap anyone either in the movie. It was interesting.
That's good.
So but it was great. But we do pursue happiness, and I think what we want to do is be careful to not turn happiness into some bad, wicked thing. It's not that it's bad. It's just not what the Bible means when it says joy.
Right.
So when you think about the difference between biblical joy that we receive from Jesus as the fruit of the Spirit when we become Christians and what we typically are running after that we call happiness, what do you see the difference between those two?
Yeah, and first off, I don't know if all the parents listening know this, but we are also aligned with the adults for this summer teaching series. And so we also just talked about joy this past weekend, and shout out to Christy Sullen. She writes our curriculum for that to make it age appropriate to align with the adults.
Yeah.
And it was cool because I wrote down the definition that was in our curriculum that we used. And I loved it because I think it helped the kids understand this, because I think kids and adults all get that mixed up as far as
I get it mixed up.
Right, joy and happiness. And so the definition was, joy is a God-given gladness that doesn't change if good or bad things happen in our day. And I just really like that definition. Joy is a God-given gladness that doesn't change if good or bad things happen in our day. And I think that really helped.
What do you think it means? Because she's getting, so Christy wrote that
I
definition?
would imagine that was her. It was not me.
Sounds like Christy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good and poignant, and so appropriately worded for kids.
Right.
But certainly it hits hard for an adult too, because I love the foundation. It is did you say Christ-given, Jesus-given, God-given, of course, gladness. So how do you think that differentiates the joy of the fruit of the Spirit, since it is God-given, from happiness?
Sure, yeah. Well, happiness is a fleeting emotion. It is. Like, I loved your example with Hagrid's, because that is fun.
That's a great ride.
It is. I'm not even a roller coaster person, and that is the best roller coaster ever.
How did Ethan, your son?
Loves it. Yeah. Loves it. And you can only ride it on the cart. Like, you got to be on the bike.
You're right.
I'm like making my 7-year-old be like, "Hey, mommy's going to ride the motorcycle."
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and so happiness is fleeting. Like, I can be happy doing certain things. I love to take a good nap, but when I wake up, I'm not as happy. Like, it's fleeting, and so joy is
not a bad. So we're not saying happiness
right.
is
it's
wicked.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It's good. Yes, like happiness is definitely a good thing, but joy is something that no matter what you're going through, you still feel. And because you know that God is in control, He has a plan, He loves you, He cares for you. And that's the framework that you have to have, like, in life with the hardships that we'll have.
That's so good. Now, so on the podcast right now, people are listening from all over the place, right? They may be in their car going to work. They may be at home after a long day on the back porch, and or they may be on a beach somewhere on vacation, and they tuned in. Yeah, that'd be great. But so many of them obviously are parents or grandparents, and just bring your kind of kid ministry perspective in here. If they were going to have a conversation with their kids, since we're all lined up each week, what would a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old face in life that would make them not be happy, and that they need to learn to depend on their joy in Christ?
Right. And I think it's a lot more than you'd think, whether it's being left alone in the lunchroom, not having a friend to talk to, or not making the all-star team, and not getting picked for that sport to play for the summer, or to not be invited to the slumber party that the girls all talked about, and so I think,
and those are real for them, right?
Those are real. Oh yeah, and they experience many emotions, and I think it's very important to talk to your kids about their emotions, and are they sad, are they happy, and what that means. There's a really great thing called an emotion wheel, and it's really good to kind of help them define that. But yeah, I think that when I was teaching about this, I was just letting them know those different examples. Like, we may not be happy in that moment, but we still can have joy, because God is the one that gives us that joy, and has everything under control. But I said also, when you're having fun at school and it's field day, or you're going on going to a fun birthday party, that's great. Like, that's happy, but we have joy with those moments, and we have joy with the sad moments.
Yeah. So we're not devastated. I think the phrase we kept using Sunday in the adult environments is, we kept saying, happy will eventually walk out the door.
Right.
It goes.
Most definitely.
It comes and goes, but joy stays in the room with you. Joy stays no matter what.
Yes.
Okay, so on that note, kind of got the kid stuff going, but let's just talk about you as a sister in Christ. You are you're a woman, you're a professional, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're juggling all these things. You're a great friend. You're a great friend to my wife and so many others, but you're juggling all the things that all adults do, right? Oh. And it is so easy to not tap into that joy that we have. So would you be willing to open up and let everyone know a time where maybe you chased happy, when it walked out of the room, it kind of was harder for you, and you had to really grab onto your joy, kind of white knuckle it a little bit? What would be a moment like that in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very open about some things that I've struggled with in my life with mental health and anxiety, and I know that's not what we have to talk about this whole time, but I don't mind sharing. Like, especially like having Ethan, you mentioned those different things that I, did on staff. And there was a year I took a year off where I just could not even work, and working does make me happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to work, and I hated to take that year off. And I would say from the pregnancy through the first year postpartum, those were some pretty dark days where I had to cling to that joy, and just in general struggling with that for the past 18 plus years of my life. It is a choice to choose joy every day, because whatever your struggle is, that's mine. I have to make that. I have to choose that every day, and it is a daily battle. And I see how like the fruits. When can I say plural fruits? When I see the fruits somewhat intertwine. Like next week would be
the
peace.
components. Yeah.
Like I see where I have a peace because I have joy. It's almost like I see those kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, totally. Well, they all grow at one time because they really are a singular unit.
Yes.
And so when you grow in peace, you grow in joy.
Yes.
You grow in joy, you grow in peace. Yeah.
And so when I'm at peace, I have joy, or when I'm filled with the most joy, I'm at peace. And like I've come to terms with a sense of peace with what I deal with. And that's from like God's given me that.
Yeah, you couldn't have done that on your own. Because, we talk about the fact that Paul in Galatians, before he gives us the fruit of the Spirit, he gave us the works of the flesh. Mm-hmm. And we can do that. We can do that naturally, right? We get selfish, angry, all that on our own. But what you're talking about, and again, I remember that time. Of course, it was hard for all of us to watch you take that year off. Mm-hmm. We knew everyone knew you needed it. We're glad for it in that sense. But you bring so much to the table of leadership and ministry here at Three Circle that it was like, whew, I mean, we felt it here, and we knew it was so hard for you because your joy in ministry, your joy in leading is evident, and so we knew it was hard for you too. But I've heard you talk about it so many times. It's very obvious that you found out some things about Jesus and about your relationship with God during that time that you're carrying into this day that were good things.
Sure.
So what would you say to that person out there that's going through something similar?
Yeah.
Where they're having to find joy because happiness walked out the door. How did you do that? What would you say to them right now in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, because like Paul talked about, the thorn in his flesh, and that God didn't take it away. And I mean, God has not removed this yet to this day. And so I feel like it was during that time where I had some really like deep soul searching to kind of come to terms with, wow, this is something I may have until I die and live with this forever. And I had just an overwhelming sense of peace about that, knowing that I may have to take medication the rest of my life. It's a daily battle. And so for someone that is struggling with that, I think it's very helpful to really stop and talk with God about this and find out, like, all right, God, what are you trying to teach me through this? How do you want to use this? Because it's in my life. How can you use this? And so I know that my story can help people, and so that's why I'm an open book about it. And I think that that's the first step, is to ask God, what are you trying to do, and teach me, and then start, getting some help to where you can be manageable, be a highly functional adult,
Yeah, which you are. So, knowing a little bit about your background, I know your dad, you grew up in a pastor's home. Mm-hmm. And I've always found it interesting, and talk about this as much as you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But you are an open book, and you always say, look, I grew up with a big family and a little house. Mm-hmm.
1,100 square feet.
Say it again?
1,100 square feet with 6 of us.
So, wow. But I've heard you say it so many times that you never felt it, so to speak. Like, what was going on? Because there was joy in your home, right? But it wasn't always what you would consider happy. Like most people go, ooh, that house is way too small. Right. And your dad went through theological training while trying to raise you guys, so the money was tight. I think you've said that y'all all shared the same, everybody got the same car, kind of kept passed down, right?
One car that we all had painted.
Y'all had the same car painted. And yet, but you've said over and over, we never felt it. We never knew it yet. So what was going on there? Because that's a joy versus happiness thing.
It is. I never felt sad. I mean, there would be times, like, as I got a little bit older, I'd be like, oh, they have more than I do, maybe. But there was a sense of, joy in our household. I am very blessed to have a really incredible, like, set of parents that love Jesus and just my dad just led our household so well. I don't know how they did it. I honestly don't know how they did it, but God was definitely working in their lives, because I don't remember feeling like they were stressed out ever, or worried or unhappy.
So they modeled
They
joy.
really did. And we would go through the McDonald's line and we'd each get a hamburger and we'd bring our own drink and bag of chips, and that was
I love it.
It was good. And so, I think it's just they just did a really incredible job of modeling that, to where, to this day, I like things. I mean, there's things that make me happy. You know, like I like to go on trips, and I like nice things. And so I think that helped me be humble with that, also, to not be excessive with that, and to watch that, because it isn't everything. Like, for me, like, I really enjoy, like, doing house decor and, like, changing up things in the house and all. And I will always find, every time I finish a project, like, that wasn't enough.
Yeah, I got you.
That wall finally got painted. Wasn't enough. What's next? Like, it's just
kind of built
in the moment. And
but
it's not what
the
matters.
way you grew up, obviously, your parents modeled that for you. They because we live in a time, I think, going back to some of the kid stuff, if we're not careful, I think people chase happy for their kids.
Sure.
Instead of instilling joy. So we want to make sure everything's perfect for them, that they're having the best experience at all times. And I think they call it helicopter parenting or whatever, where people just kind of fly in to make sure everything's okay. And their kid never gets their feelings hurt, and they never feel any pain, and they never go through anything tough. And so sometimes I think as parents, we don't realize it. We're teaching our kids to chase happiness rather than standing in joy. So give us some advice, Brittany, on how to change that as parents in our homes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important just to think about, where do you want to see, like, for Ethan, I have 10 years with him under my roof now. And, kids, I think the statistics will say they make their decision about what their worldview is by 10 years old. And
that is amazing.
So kids ministry, shout out, is very important.
Oh, my goodness.
And so it's so important to think about this time, because you do see a shift once they become a preteen, teenager.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we're in that stage.
Yes. And so this time is like the precious golden years are the best. But to teach them that it's the teaching stage, honestly.
Sure.
Teach them how to deal with their emotions, teach them how to learn what true happiness is, walk through and discuss things that are, when you're going through something hard, how we can still have joy. I mean, I think that those would be some things to start with, just like modeling that. Because, yes, I will say I look back at my parents, and they modeled what was important. Like, not in the way with church, like it was like a religion. Like, I love church. Like, it was like,
you did.
I love my background with that.
And then you went to college and immediately got involved, right?
Yeah.
In ministry.
My college, sorority was basically Baptist College Ministry. BCM, that's where I first saw you teaching. And it changed my life. And all these people thinking about their college years and sororities, I'm like, I lived at home during college and went to, BCM was my social outlet, and it was fun. I loved it.
Awesome.
So maybe I'm just a little bit of a nerd, but it was cool then. It was fun.
I just love, though, that you're given, like, I almost think people don't see there's other paths.
Yeah.
Besides this one that everyone's saying you got to go down.
There's other paths. And I remember Andy Stanley having a quote back in the day about, like, a timeline and, like, how everything's like a moment. If you think about elementary school, it's a moment. When you go back to, like, recap, like, middle school was a moment. It was a weird moment too.
Oh, yeah.
High school, a moment. And so it's that other concept of just all this being so fleeting, and like college was a moment. It was a blip on the radar. And just thinking through, like, when you take that down, like, is your kid going to remember? What are they going to remember about being under your roof?
That's good.
Like, I remember, my dad playing, awesome Christian music, Michael W. Smith, Stephen Curtis Chapman, and
my guys.
Yes, I mean they had like a subscription.
Wait a minute now. The listeners out there need to know too. You were a big Point of Grace fan.
POG, yes.
Yeah. What was the song you liked so much?
Well, I did sing "Keep the Candle Burning" with the group of. No. I sang "Circle of Friends" with the group of friends in front of my church.
Hey, Point of Grace sold a lot of records.
Hey, they were great.
Yeah, they were.
So yeah, no, but those are the things I remember. I remember my dad sitting at the table reading, his devotion every day. I'll never get that image out of my head. So what are they going to remember outside of the ball games and the practices and
which is all fine. You're not saying those things are wicked.
Yeah,
but
we played some baseball.
Yeah.
I guess we weren't very good because we didn't really keep it up. I was a couple years and then retired. But yeah, it's like, what are they going to see? I mean, there's just modeling is so important.
Yeah, it absolutely
to our kids of what truly matters. And I will say that, yes, I didn't think I'd go this direction, but seeing my parents, they had joy, even with little. They had so much joy, and I think that has definitely poured over into my life and
absolutely,
my siblings.
Absolutely. And I've had the honor of being around your mom and dad. They're awesome people, and I've just always loved because raising my own kids, my own family. I've always loved to hear your stories about growing up because it just I don't know why your stories always take the pressure off a little bit. I go, you know what? We don't have to have everything just right. And they had this amazing experience because your mom and dad just kept it about Jesus, kept it about joy, and they poured that into you guys without really making they didn't hammer it into you. They just kind of modeled it. Y'all caught it,
I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what they did.
Yeah, that's what they did. And so if you're out there and you're a parent or a guardian, fathers and mothers are in those roles, just kind of hear that. Hear what Brittany's saying right now and let that give you permission to take a deep breath. All of the little pathways that everyone has said, this is the way you must do it for your kid to be happy, and they've got to have this and they got to have that. Hey, you know what? No, they don't. Right, Britt?
Right.
They don't have to do that. And so that's a big deal. So let's bring it back to kind of the adult side of things. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're also a wife. Mm-hmm. Your husband, Jonathan, great guy. He very successful, has to do a lot of traveling and all that. And you guys balance like we all do.
Yeah.
How do you and Jonathan work to keep joy, what you're holding on to, when you know happiness will come and go? What would you say to people? Because you were involved in marriage ministry and helping us build True Marriage, our ministry to couples. You helped us build that out. What have you guys learned that keeps you as a couple standing in joy?
Yeah, well, and a big shout out to my husband because he is a very great leader of our household. He leads us so well, and so he definitely takes the reins with that as far as always recentering, if you will, what's important. It's about our family. It's about the three of us, and then our immediate family, and serving the church, and so just knowing your values is very important. We went to Sunrise Camp, where you guys, I believe, have been. Sunrise, I think they call it Sunrise.
Which, for those who don't know, it's basically a family retreat. Mm-hmm. My family did it about 4 years ago. Game changer. You guys did it last year, is that right?
Yeah, last year, and they do something where it's called the rocks, the big rocks, mason jar full of 5 rocks.
I remember it well.
Yes, and it's it's our relationship with God. It's our marriage. It's our parenting to Ethan. It's how we're serving the church or doing our best in school, as we say to Ethan. And the last one is, I can't remember. So maybe it was just 4. But it's if it doesn't fall under that grid, we need to have a conversation if we're spending a lot of time and energy and money on that.
Right.
If it doesn't fall under that.
Love that.
And so it's important and kids can get that. We just did a little review of it this past summer because we were just needing to talk through goals and stuff for the summer and what does it look like in our household. And we were having Ethan review, our health, that was the fifth one. So, like, what does it look like, Ethan, for you to be healthy? Is it sitting on the iPad for, an hour?
Yeah.
No, and so when you have that to point to, that this is what we value and this is what's important in our family, and if it's a little rock that doesn't fit there, then let's have a conversation and say, maybe this is too much.
Yeah, I love that. And we have watched you guys do that so well. So joy versus happiness. So if you're out there listening right now, we are not saying that happy's bad.
No, I love to be. I mean, I love to be happy.
And we're all kind of different with that. You know,
Sure.
I mean, a bookstore and a cup of coffee and my happy meter just went through the roof.
Sure.
You know,
I'm like,
you're like
snooze fest. Well,
exactly.
And everyone's different with that. Like college, I don't like college football. I know. I just offended half of,
Right.
the people here in Alabama. But
I can
that is
literally
not
hear people are turning the podcast off right now.
I do not like college football. And so I have to practice my joy in the fall.
You find other ways.
But I recently have enjoyed, having a green thumb and planning things. And most people would be like, nope, I'm good. And
we kill everything at our house.
You got to kill some things before you learn how to do it.
That's what it is.
But happiness is it's an emotion that God gave us.
But you don't want to count on it.
Yeah.
It's going to come and go.
Right. It is.
And joy remains.
It is. In that verse that you will have troubles in this world, like, what are you going to do? If you haven't experienced something already in your life that's hard, you will. And it's like, what are you going to do? Where's that joy that you can cling to? I have seen people that have gone through loss that have not shown like that fruit in their life that has been hard for me to watch. And then I have seen someone like a Megan Brown that has shown.
Yeah, she was on the podcast recently.
Yeah, true joy with
losing her father. Yeah.
So it's like you see it, just like you said, the people you see in the hospitals that have it and that don't.
We kind of in ministry get a front row seat to it. And it's really stunning. It's astounding and inspiring to see when someone does hang on to their joy. We have a wonderful lady in our church right now who's been a part of leadership at different times, who's going through just a horrific battle with cancer. And man, I saw her this Sunday, and she's fighting with she's in a ton of pain, and yet that joy that she has in Christ is still firmly in place. In fact, you can tell that's what she's standing on, because it's not a happy time.
Right.
You can't. Happy's not chemo. Happy's not everything she's going through, but the joy remains.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it may just be a daily ask, God, fill me with the joy I need for today, because in those seasons, it's much harder to choose it when the circumstances are not in our favor.
Yeah, and sometimes they're not going to be.
No, yeah.
Brittany, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast today, and I know people listening have been encouraged to hear your family story. Is so inspiring, both your family that you grew up in and you and Jonathan raising your son now, and the things that you've been through. And you've always been such an open book to talk about the things that you've dealt with that I know have helped so many. As a kind of a closing moment, what would you say to everyone out there listening, whether they're a mom, a dad, or they're single, and because all of us have different versions of happy that we're tempted to chase and kind of build our life on. So someone may think, if I can just have that relationship, if I can find that perfect person, which doesn't exist, then everything will be happy. What would you say to them in one closing line to go, hey, take a deep breath. You may or may not find happy, but you can have joy in Christ. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, whether you're wanting bigger house or, better clothes, or, for girls, we love, those kind of things as far as, wanting to look our best or have all the things as far as that, or, going on the best trips and all that kind of stuff. I think that whatever your thing is that you're chasing is, just know that it will not make you happy. It may make you happy in a moment, but like it will not be fulfilling. And so it's almost like you're just running on a treadmill, like, and you're never actually going to go somewhere. Like you're not going to go anywhere. Like it's not going to
That's good.
fulfill you. Even like Like, if I just have, another kid in our life, then it'll make our marriage better. Like, whatever that is, like, you have to go back to the beginning where we talked about this, how he's the vine, we're the branches. And if we're not connected to God, like, this conversation doesn't even, like, can't even happen if you're not connected to God and you're not walking with Jesus. And so I would encourage you that it's like, all those things are okay, but like, at the end of the day, like, when we die, I mean, we're going to be hopefully in heaven with Jesus, and all that doesn't matter. It sounds like a very holy answer, but
it's the truth.
It doesn't. All this doesn't matter. Like, enjoy it, sure,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say just, man, figure out what it looks like to get reconnected to Jesus and to try and make that a choice daily.
Yeah, I love it. Brittany, thank you so much for spending some time with us on the podcast today. Hey, guys, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, we hope you're having a great summer. We also hope you'll join us at one of our campuses Thursday nights here on the Eastern Shore at the Fairhope campus. Kicks off the weekend. And then Sundays at every single one of our many locations. We are walking through the fruit of the Spirit. Going to hit another one of those components this week. But you can also find us here each week at Beyond the Weekend, where we do exactly what we did today. We dive deeper into what we talked about the weekend before. And so we hope that you've been encouraged today. And we hope that as you will have moments of happiness, that you will learn to stand in joy. Thank you so much for joining us here today at Beyond the Weekend on the 3 Circle Podcast.